Hi everyone, this is the Promo3 channel. Today we're going to take apart this gearbox. This is a ZF16 speed gearbox, the ZF16S130. So we can see that this is still an old gearbox in a cast iron housing. Now all ZF gearboxes, including the 16 speed ones, come in an aluminum housing. This gearbox was taken from this type of vehicle. Actually, to be more precise, it wasn't removed, it came as an extra. The vehicle currently has a different gearbox, and this one came as an extra. And nobody knows, the new owner doesn't know what's up with this gearbox. Our task is to disassemble, inspect for defects, eyeball, and decide if it will be reassembled or used as spare parts for the gearbox in the vehicle. I don't know yet, we're just disassembling and checking for defects. We'll see how things go. Maybe both gearboxes will be repaired, the one that's currently in the vehicle and this one. Like I said, the vehicle is from 1986. It has a cast iron 16-speed gearbox. So where do we start? I checked the oil. There's no oil left in it. We remove the cover, take off the flange, remove all sorts of caps, the shifting mechanism, and so on. So what can we see right away? For example, the bushings are worn out and the shaft for the release bearing fork is damaged. So we either need a repair kit or we'll have to weld it. Replacing the bushings, repairing the shaft. We also see some play in the shifting mechanism. Well, it's not that much here. We'll also, of course, take all this apart and check it. Now, I'm unscrewing these bolts around the perimeter. There are 8 bolts with a 27mm head, and I'm removing the cover. So I've removed the cover. We can see that the bolts have some dirt stuck in them. I'll take them out and clean them now. What I want to say is that this cast iron housing, you can immediately tell it's solid. If this were aluminum, these areas would already be corroded. I have a video about a Mercedes gearbox with an aluminum housing where I had to replace the housing because the corrosion had gone all the way through it. So you can see that cast iron is really solid. Absolutely nothing happened to the housing, nothing at all happened to it. So I removed the cover, took off the flange, removed the cover and took off the air cylinder. We can see that the seal, which keeps the air from leaking into the transmission, is torn. I can't unscrew this yet. I'll wait for the compressor to build up more pressure. We can see that both the piston and the cylinder are already worn out. This shows the amount of aluminum shavings. I'll clean it and take a look. Maybe we'll have to replace it with a new one. So, now, my task is to unscrew the second nut and free the second piston. and then I'll unscrew these 17mm bolts all around. You remove the cover and take off the range section. As we can see, everything was held together by this one bearing. I removed the flange and cover. That's it. Now the range section shaft is no longer centered. See, it moves like this. The speedometer drive is still here. Let's keep taking it apart. So I removed the range section, and right away we can see that, for example, all the splines on the coupling are rolled over. That is, we can see that the cone rings are worn out. We can see that it wasn't slowing down at all, it wasn't engaging at all. So there was a terrible rattle here when we tried to engage it. You can see the condition of the teeth. They should be about as sharp as the ones on the ring, right? But you can see what condition they're in. They've been worn down to the point of no return. So that's it. We need to replace them. This cone comes together with this plate right here. This is the ring. Well, the hub is still in question. We'll take it apart now. So, the coupling sleeve, this ring and this cone too, all of this needs to be replaced. Well, visually everything looks fine here, but we'll clean everything and take a closer look. All the retainers fell out. We can also see wear on them. We'll order new retainers as well. So I removed the range section, and we can see there's a bit of oil in there, and there's water in the oil. So maybe water got in when it was being washed, or maybe during transportation. There are open holes here, so it's possible water got in through them. I also found this barrel lying here, and our gear shifting mechanisms are on this shaft, so it's unclear how it ended up here. We'll take everything apart and check it out. So I took out the shaft and the range fork. I removed them. This is the shaft for engaging the divider, so I'll take it out in that direction later. I unscrewed this washer that holds the sun gear. It doesn't come off just like that, so now I need to set up the puller. I'll use the puller to remove it and then start disassembling the front part.
Stay tuned for the next episode. To be continued in the next episode.
So I took off the lid, disassembled the box. For this you need to remove the bearing. Here you need to take out the bearing and the cover is removed. We look and see that here we have a broken cone. That is, we can see it has fallen apart into pieces. The cone that goes from the splitter to the secondary shaft, the ring there is completely worn out, and accordingly the coupling is all worn out and so on. I believe everything here is in about the same condition as the range section. Let's keep disassembling. We found this cause for now. The important thing is the gear should be intact since cones and rings are replaceable.
To be continued in the next episode. Watch the continuation in the next episode.
So I removed the bearing, took off the cover, screwed these 2 bolts, moved the splitter fork, took out the shaft, and after that took out the input shaft with the splitter synchronizer. Now I'm unscrewing the 17mm bolt over there, which holds the reverse gear shaft, the idler gear and the reverse gear. I unscrew the bolt, knock out the shaft, the gear drops down, and I take out the counter shaft.
Now I'm unscrewing these 2 bolts. Get the cover in the shaft.
There is a filter here, like a mesh. I'll need to clean it later. You can see there are metal shavings, paint, and something else in there. Basically, I'll need to wash all of this later. We can also see how much shavings there are. Fine shavings like silver powder. There's a huge amount of shavings, so it's clear that everything here got worn down, including by that broken cone. Alright, now I turn the housing over like this and the secondary shaft comes out along with the forks. To remove the forks, press into this hole. There are 4 bolts and you'll see a retainer. Press it and the forks will come out.
In the street, in the space, I awake. I buy you no for us space. I for us space. I know you know for us space, space.
So what else do we see? That the gearbox stood for some time without oil. That is, we see that in these places the gears are covered with rust, and this rust is quite deep, and there are already pits. On all the gears, on the shift sleeves in general, it had been sitting idle for some time. Maybe there was even oil. Let's say the oil level was here, and these gears were already above the oil level, and that's why they rusted like this. So we can see that on the opposite side, the teeth are good, without pits, without rust. But, for example, there's a pit here. From experience with gearboxes like this, it's hard to predict how it will behave in the future. The ones I worked on had no problems, and as far as I know, they're still working. There were 2 such gearboxes. So, they've been working for, I don't know, 5 years now, more than 5 years. But still, you can see there are pits, and what might happen to them next is hard to predict. Maybe it'll keep wearing down or break a tooth in that spot. So it's hard to say. Well, I'll let the owner of this box know about it. and we'll see what decision is made. Well, now my task is to completely disassemble the shaft, check all the cone's rings and synchronizers. So before I take the shaft apart, I'll put it in the washer and rinse it a bit so it's not so greasy.
Escalate. Continue, to be continued, to be continued.
I washed the shaft, clamped it in the vise, and now I'll take it apart. Anything I need to order goes on that table, and I'll write it down immediately. Alright, so here it is, the broken cone. You can see that the car was still running on it after it broke, and the car kept working. You can see how the edges are worn down. Also, the clutch sleeve is totally worn out, and the teeth are likely worn down about 3 millimeters. And of course the ring as well, you can see how it's worn out. It also needs to be replaced. So for now, all of this needs to be replaced. And the parts on this side will stay. The input shaft is still in question, so I put it aside for now. Alright, so on this side I've disassembled everything I could. Now I need to turn the shaft over. Alright, so I've disassembled the output shaft. The shaft itself is in good condition. Here are the preliminary results. The gearbox is in very bad condition. All of this here on this side definitely needs to be replaced. That's just to make it work at least somewhat well. Ideally, it would also be good to replace these gears I already showed, the ones with pitting. These are all the gears from the output shaft. So I made this list. It's not a complete list. I haven't written down the small stuff yet because I think there's no point. The total here is probably just for the main items. I don't know, maybe around 200 or 250,000, if not more. So now we'll estimate all of this and find out how much it's going to cost. If the decision is made to rebuild this gearbox, then I'll add the small stuff later. There are sliders, air cylinders, seals, oil seals, and something else. I can't remember everything right now. So, let me remind you that this gearbox came as a bonus with the car, meaning it was just removed at some point. Apparently, the reason was that the cone fell apart. That's why it was removed at some point. And somewhere they bought another gearbox. And now the car is running with a different gearbox. They're removing the engine, along with the gearbox for engine repairs. And the gearbox that's currently installed also needs repairs. I don't know what will happen with this gearbox. Maybe they'll just decide to make one out of the two. I'll have to take apart that second gearbox too. See if I can take something from there, something from here. Although, basically there's really nothing to take here. Well, I don't know. The secondary shaft is in good condition. And the range section also seems to be in good condition. So far, these are the intermediate results. Well, obviously it's clear this gearbox has never been worked on. Basically, I can see, for example, the ZF logo here. Also, for example, where else can I show it? Here's the ZF logo. Well, basically, all the parts I've looked at so far, we can see the ZF logo. So, all the parts here are original. This gearbox hasn't been repaired yet. But you have to assume that after all this time, it still hasn't been repaired even once. So, what can you even take from it? In any case, I'll be doing the assembly. The assembly of this gearbox, not necessarily this one. Maybe the one that's currently on the car. But either way, I'll be putting one together. The car came with this gearbox and an identical spare, which I've already disassembled. I'm filming this separately, but these recordings might end up in the gearbox repair series. Not sure yet. I'll have two gearboxes disassembled. One is already disassembled, and I'm about to start the second. I'm not sure if I can assemble one or two gearboxes, but I must assemble at least one. Since the car needs to live on something, so what problems did this gearbox have? Well, you could say we're taking it apart just to check it, so to speak. And the car was bought and the new owner doesn't know how it behaves, or anything like that. Basically, just to check and take a look. But what you already know is that 8th gear slips out. I know in what order the videos will be released, whether it'll be about the gearbox first or the engine first. In general, I don't know yet. We're just filming for now and seeing how it goes. I have a slight cold, so my voice sounds like this. I've already drained the oil from this gearbox. Basically, the oil is pretty good. It's clean with no metal shavings, but maybe it was changed not too long ago. That's why we're not using oil as an indicator. So as we can see here in 3rd gear, the ring on the cone is sitting all the way down and spinning. And not only that, I think I saw a crack as well. Yes, that's right. Here a few pieces have chipped off, and here we can see here's a crack and another crack here on the gearbox I disassembled before. This same cone was also broken.
Yes, so I thought so we can basically leave the first and second gear cone rings as they are, because you can see the ring hasn't fully seated yet. There's a gap about 1.5 millimeters, maybe even more. So, and it's not spinning, so it will still work for some time. It will keep working. So, and also on the coupling we can see that the teeth are in good condition, they're sharp, so everything is fine on both sides. Well, the hub is also in good condition. And also on the second gear we can see that there's a gap of about 1.5 to 2 millimeters between the cones and the ring, and we can see that the cone doesn't rotate. The ring doesn't rotate, so we can also see that the shaft itself is in good condition. Well, it still needs to be clean, of course, so that means the cone is fine. As I thought, we need cones, rings and a coupling for the range section, and a cone, ring and coupling for third gear. So what did I suggest? For this gearbox, use all new parts for the gears, cones, rings, bearings, everything. Install the rebuilt gearbox in the truck so it can run with it, and the second gearbox, which will be the spare one, you could say the gears there are a bit worse, and put something from this gearbox in there, like these cones, rings for example. You can even use these bearings because they're still in fairly good condition. Put this same oil pump from this gearbox in there, and for example just buy the new parts that I just mentioned. Then you can assemble that gearbox and it will be a spare gearbox. Well, that's all for now. I'll clean everything up now and maybe I'll say a few more words later. Alright, so that's it. I've disassembled the output shaft. I cleaned what I could. So what are the results? So we need to replace 2 cones, 2 rings and the sleeve in the range section. And also 2 cones, 2 rings and the sleeve on the third and fourth gear synchronizer. At first I only wanted to replace the third gear, which broke and chipped. But then when I took it apart and looked at the fourth gear, I saw that it was literally holding on by just a few tenths of a millimeter. It had already started to slip like this. It was already starting to burn. So basically it was about to start grinding when shifting. That's why I decided to completely replace the third and fourth gear cones, the rings and the sleeve. So I took this gearbox apart about a month ago. As soon as it was removed, I disassembled it, inspected it for defects, washed everything and cleaned it. So everything is already prepared. I actually took apart 2 gearboxes. One is the one the car came with. The second one is a spare, you could say, basically thrown in as a spare. We're putting the maximum number of new parts into this gearbox. Some parts from this gearbox, like cone rings and sleeves, I've already cleaned. These will go into the second gearbox. That one will be, well, partially made from new parts and partially from used parts from this gearbox. So I took it apart about a month ago, as I already mentioned, while we were ordering the parts, while the parts were being delivered, and in the meantime I was working on the engine. I just finished the engine yesterday, put it here like this and closed it up. Now I'm moving the housing to the workbench and now we'll start assembling it. First we'll start by assembling the output shaft and so on. We'll do everything step by step now. So
I've already moved everything to the workbench. As I mentioned before, some parts from this gearbox will go into the second gearbox. Of course, I haven't kept all of this in my head for a month. Now I'm looking at all this and realizing that I'll have to figure it all out again. Remember everything, what goes where, and so on. I mean, what the plans were, where to put everything. So I've cleaned the coupling. I was planning to install it. Basically, we'll remember everything as we go along. We'll look at everything. I just want to say that it's not good to take things apart, and then put them back together a month later. You just can't keep everything in your head. Well, as I go. I unpack each part and compare it, because sometimes either the wrong thing was ordered or the wrong thing was sent. In general, all kinds of things can happen. So that's the kind of work we have ahead of us now. I unpacked each part, checked the number, compared it with the old one. And if everything was fine, I set it aside, and so on. Three 12962333006 1296233006. We also compare the number 1295, 304, 135, 195, 90, 304, 135, 1290, 304, 135. Everything's great. Well, basically, it's clear that everything should be like this. Everything should match. But sometimes there are moments it happens sometimes. So I'll also show you why I decided to change this gear. You'll see the roller stayed in place and left wear marks from the bearing. Well, same thing here. 1290. 1290 1295304002 1295304002. So basically I've unpacked almost everything. This goes to the wrench section. I'll put this aside for now. We don't need it yet. And this we're going to assemble now. I haven't unpacked some things yet. It'll take a while. For example, the oil pump, the range shift cylinder. I haven't unpacked this yet either. This is for the second gearbox, so I'll put it aside for now as well. I've organized everything, set it up properly, and started assembling the output shaft. It's basically the same as before. Bearing, gear, cones, rings, hub. Basically, it's almost the same as with, say, an 8-speed gearbox. So, the only thing that's different here is the input shaft. What's different about it? It's that we can change the constant mesh gear, and accordingly, if we change it, one is bigger, one is smaller. Accordingly, we get a different gear ratio on the intermediate shaft, and then we have all the gears. That's it. So in a nutshell, that's the difference between an 8-speed gearbox and a 16-speed one. Next, we also have a range section at the output, a reduction gear, and that's it. Those are basically all the differences. All right, let's assemble the output shaft. So we can see how the new ring sits on the new cone. That is, the gap is more than 2 millimeters and the ring no longer rotates. Alright, so first the needle bearing, then the gear, then the synchronizer cone, the synchronizer ring, the hub, the snap ring, the retainers with springs, and the sleeve. Now, we install the first gear. Basically, everything is the same. Now, first the ring, the cone, the bearing, and then the gear. Alright, so I installed the first gear. Well, it's not just the first gear for us. Depending on the position of the range section and the position of the splitter, it actually serves the function of several gears at once. So, I installed the reverse gear engagement from the front. Now, while it's still warm, I'm installing the reverse gear bearing race. Also, as you can see, we have oil channels here. That is, there's an oil channel running through the shaft and oil is supplied to each gear. The bushing for the reverse gear bearing also has channels here. Inside, it turns out that no matter how you install it, oil will still be supplied to the bearing. So I'm installing this bearing race, the bearing itself and the reverse gear. So next we put the bearing on here. Here's our new bearing. I compared the old one and the new one, checked everything. They're identical. So I'll put the race on the plate, heat up the inner race, and while it's hot, I'll put it on the shaft. Then I'll install the bearing itself into the housing. That's it. So, just to make it clear, the bearing sits in the housing, and here we have a partition. This is the main gearbox housing, and this part here is already the housing where the multiplier is located. And next, we install this gear from the planetary gear set, the Sun gear. It then transmits the torque to the multiplier. Alright, now I'll install this bearing into the housing, flip the shaft over, and assemble the third and fourth gears. At first it was tight, possibly due to misalignment or a burr. Then it seated properly and the race started turning too. So there's already some wear in the housing itself. That's why I applied this kind of adhesive for bearings, as usual, to secure the bearings. I applied a bit there and here on the race. So this adhesive is great, it will fill that gap and everything will be just fine. See, it's already set, everything is good now. So for gaps like these where there's no play but it fits loosely, this adhesive is simply indispensable. Alright, I turned the shaft over and before adding the gears, I'll remove this race. Here's the old bearing and the new bearing comes with a race included. Here it is, here it is. Here it is. So, I installed the bearings while they were hot, tightened them. Now, I'll wait for the bearings to cool down, and then I'll tighten this nut again, maybe in about half an hour or an hour, and then I'll stake it. So, what I also want to say is that these cones and rings are the same for both synchronizers, right? The only thing is, you need to put this washer between the constant mesh gears. Here we can see that the cone is not sitting on the gear, but on this ring, and there's a gap. So as I assemble this shaft and replace the parts, I clear the table. For example, all of this was meant to be replaced, so I put it away in the box. Some parts will still be used for the second gearbox. So for now, I'll just put them here on the table. Here's the process to prevent confusion and keep the table organized. I put on a new ring or cone. Set the old one aside, install the new part, then remove the old part from the table, and repeat.
Continue.
Mock office. Office.
Here's how I assembled the output shaft. I've already test fitted the input shaft, For the countershaft, I just need to replace the bearings. I'll try to remove them, but I may have to cut the bearing races off with an angle grinder, since there's little space for a puller and no way to hook it, especially on this side. So I took the output shaft out of the vise and hung it like this on a belt. I secured the forks here with wire. There's plenty of space here, so I can remove it later without any problems. This gearbox is assembled like this. First, install the output shaft with the forks, then insert the counter shaft and add an additional fork. I've installed the shaft and now need to line it up with the fork holes. Press on the retainer. Now, I can't do much with the camera right now, but I'll show you once it's in place. Alright, that's it. I've got it in place. It went pretty quickly actually. The forks are in place and the retainer has locked them, so I can't remove them now. I haven't replaced the bearings yet. I tried, but they wouldn't come off. I'll try with pullers, or as I mentioned before. I need to replace the bearings and will install them now. I'm removing the reverse idler gear. And then I'll install the intermediate shaft. That's it. There are 2 thrust washers in the bearings. I checked and washed everything. It's all fine. So I inserted it like this, shift it all the way so there's room to install the intermediate shaft. After that, once the intermediate shaft is in place, we move it into position and insert it. We insert the shaft or the axle, whatever you want to call it, and it gets fixed in place right here. So I removed the bearings. I managed to take one off in one piece, meaning I removed the retaining ring and pressed on the gear and the bearing came off. Then I pressed the gear back on. So as for the side one, I tried removing it with pullers and all sorts of methods. It didn't work out, so I cut the bearing cage with an angle grinder and made 2 cuts in the race like this. Tapped it, it cracked, and I took it off. So next I installed the new bearings and then put the shaft into the gearbox. Alright,
that's it. So I installed the shafts, put in the reverse idler gear, tightened the bolt with thread locker, and also unscrewed and cleaned the magnetic drain plug. This plug here, which as usual had a lot of metal shavings on it. I washed and cleaned it. Now I'll put it back in place right away and then install the filter. I'll be installing the filter with super glue. Alright, so the filter is installed, the plug is tightened, and now I'll immediately install the splitter shift fork. So first the fork goes in, then the shaft is inserted separately and secured with these bolts. Alright, so all the shafts are installed, the forks are in place. Now I'll close the cover.
To be continued. To be continued.
Okay, so next I'll install the oil pump. We have a new oil pump. The pump is driven by this little key here. There's a hole here. It goes in here. Now, I'll glue it in place with super glue. So I've glued the key in place, let it dry, and the keepers are covered with this, let's say, a metal washer, basically. And this washer just bends around the keepers. Also, there's a guide on the pump, and you can see in the cup, in the front cover, there's a matching part as well. Now I need to measure the washers to see if these fit or if I need different ones, and also replace the oil seal. So I've installed the front cover, checked and adjusted the bearings, selected the washers. So for now, it's just sitting on the gasket, no pump, nothing else yet. I was about to remove the cover to replace the oil seal, and it turned out there's no oil seal. I rummaged through the whole box, but there's no oil seal. Either it wasn't ordered or it wasn't included. So what am I going to do now? I'll leave it for now, and we'll revisit it later. I ended up removing the front cover after all. Why? To secure this, well, the key. Even though I glued it with super glue, I'll be turning and moving the gearbox now, maybe tapping it or something, and it might fall out and fly off somewhere. But so what else do I want to say? Basically, I want to talk about a small mistake I made. So what did I do? I installed the bearing, I took it out of the package and saw that it looked fine. I just did it automatically. I removed it from the package, saw its position, and assumed that's correct for gearboxes with a solid input shaft, right? Of the splitter, meaning first you put the washer, then the race. And that's how I did it. But here it should be the other way around. First you put the race, and then the washer on top. So why is that? To disassemble this gearbox, you must remove the bearing before taking off the cover. What am I trying to say? Well, it won't affect the operation in any way. You can assemble the bearing either way. It won't affect the operation at all. It will only matter for future repairs. In the future, disassembling this gearbox could be problematic, especially when removing this race. Well, you can remove it, but you'll need some kind of puller here. You'll have to figure something out. Well, I didn't do it on purpose. I did it automatically. I thought about taking it apart and redoing everything. But then I thought, what if I ruin the new bearing, right? It's pretty expensive. If I start taking it apart somewhere now, well, basically there's a chance that I might ruin the bearing. So that's why I decided to leave it as is. If all goes well, this gearbox shouldn't need repairs for years, so we'll keep it like this. I just wanted to mention that I made this small mistake. There's no way around it. Human error can't be avoided. So I didn't manage to record all of this, my conversation. I talk about the oil seal, about the bearing. Before I could, supply guy brought me a new oil seal. Everything's good. I'll remove this one and install the new oil seal. Alright, so I installed the oil seal, installed the oil pump, lined up the key on the bolt, like this, in this direction. I applied sealant, I also put sealant here, pulled the gasket out, and lined up the key on the bolt again. The rings are in place. There's one ring here and two here. One is thicker and one is really thin. Also, since our oil seal has a spring, we need to put a drop of oil under it.
To be continued.
Alright, let's continue. Next I decided to assemble the shifting mechanism. Since the gearbox is still in this position, it's more convenient to assemble it now. Plus I need to check the gear shifting. Later, with the range section, it won't be exactly harder, but it definitely won't be as convenient. So this is roughly how it looks, but for now it's just a test fit. These are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one has an X on it. Where there's an X, we replaced it and put in a new one. This bolt here was broken, but now there's a new one in place. So that's roughly how I set it up. There's another bolt here as well, but I haven't tied it yet, since I still need to compress these springs. That's basically it. Now I'll take it out, put the barrels on with sealant like I usually do, and that's it. Then I'll assemble everything. So we have 6 of these little bushings, or barrels, or keys, you can call them whatever you like. And these grooves here are for these bolts. This is how it goes in and gets fixed in place. So there's one here, and the second one goes at the very end. So I've started it.
To be continued.
Continuation. I started on 4 bolts and put the fork on, and now I want to check the gear shifting. I still need to install the air valve, and there are also retainers that need to be put in here. I'll install all that a bit later. So to check the gear shifting, I need to insert a shaft. Well, not the shaft, the rod for engaging the range section. That means it will press for me. Right now my forks are locked in place with this retainer here. To release it, I need to insert it. Continuation. Basically, we can see that all the gears are engaging. In this position, I can only shift 2 synchronizers, which means only when it's actually in gear. I can also shift the splitter, basically, but right now, it's engaged in one position, and that's all I need. And I can also engage reverse gear. So, in all the other gears, the range section is already involved, and the splitter is in one position or the other. Basically, what I needed to check was that these synchronizers engage. Everything is fine. I checked that. And now I can. To be continued. Da Ribu So to be continued. Not to be continued. Do not forget to put the armrest, well, the washer. To be continued. So, I put the washer in the bearing part of the race, basically. I installed the sun gear, put the washer in, tightened the bolts with thread locker. So, there was also some wire here. I also want to wire it too. And
also the wire.
so I adjusted the subtitles.
Subtitles adjusted by Simon.
I've assembled the range section. Even though the cone was a tight fit, I still put on 2 clamps. I wouldn't want everything to fall apart during installation. Alright.
There is Finn.
It's just a temple.
There he is. There he is.
Look how fancy. I've installed the range section, everything is assembled. I put in the fork, secure the nuts with thread locker, as usual, that's all. Now I can close the cover. So what work do I have left with the cover? I need to replace the seal, I need to replace this cap. There it is, there it is. Also I need to put a seal in this cap on the pistons. I've already changed the piston seals, so here I have these new seals. I don't need to install the far kick lever in the cover. I also need to add 2 seals and a new bearing in this cover. I'll just handle it as I go. So I've installed the sensor, which shows that the range section is engaged. This is just a retainer that fits into a groove on the shaft, and this is just a spring. It locks the rod in certain positions. This is just a cover, and here I've installed a breather. That's all for now. Next, we have an air valve mounted on 4 bolts. I'll be installing more retainers here soon. Yes? So, well, the gearbox is almost ready. Basically, I've installed everything. Here, I've installed the cylinder and the air hoses. These are the air valves that control the range section. I also installed the valve that controls the splitter. So, basically that's it. The only thing left for me to install is the power takeoff shaft for the pump, for the hydraulic oil pump. So, why haven't I installed it yet? Well, that's my fault. I didn't order this bearing, and just yesterday I realized that we need this kind of bearing. We'll wait a couple of days, but that's not really a problem. It can be installed right on the spot. So, there are a lot of little details, especially with the shifting mechanism, the range section, and so on. There are some specific nuances. So, if someone wants to build the gearbox the same way as in the video, that's up to you. But I just want to warn you, it's not as easy as it looks in this video. So, what else do I need to do next? Next, I still need to work on the casing. So here it is after washing. I just cleaned it again with a wire brush. And now, what do I need to do? I need to install the repair kit. So as you can see, there's this kind of play. So there's this kind of wear on the bushings. On the shaft itself, I haven't checked the repair kit yet, and I really hope that the kit includes a shaft. Because if there's no shaft, I won't be able to do anything today. I'll need a welder to build it up and then machine it. So here's our repair kit. The weight suggests the shaft's inside. Let's open it and check. Alright, so it's the next day. The casing is already done. Everything is installed. It turned out great. There's no play at all. Everything moves freely, perfectly smoothly. Overall, everything is good. I didn't film anything else yesterday. I was just too tired. I didn't feel like filming or talking or anything anymore. I just wanted to finish everything as quickly as possible and be done with it. So the casing is ready. Now I need to install it. Alright, so the casing is installed and tightened. Now I'll go ahead and install the release bearing. The release bearing is new. There's also a new hose for supplying lubricant to the release bearing. That is between the release bearing and the guide tube. So I took the release bearing out of the package and we can see there's already grease on it. That is in the area where it moves along the guide tube. We can see the factory grease has already been applied. So I'll also apply a little grease to the guide tube itself. Here we have the old release bearing. And I often see this situation where the hose is screwed directly into the release bearing. That is, it will screw in. The threads will fit, but we won't have a proper stop, right? Apparently it just moves back and forth in there. So that's not correct. First you need to install this fitting. The fitting is installed, then the release bearing itself. And then into this fitting, there's a cone inside, the tube presses against it. I install the fitting, then the hose, and finally the release bearing on the gearbox. Okay, so I've installed the release bearing. Everything is in place, everything is assembled here. The release bearing is secured to the fork with these clips at the top and bottom. I've installed the hose, bent it a little here, so everything is good. It moves well. Don't forget to lubricate it regularly. According to the maintenance schedule, the first service of the vehicle. All these grease fittings need to be lubricated, the kingpins greased and so on. Whatever else there is, I don't know, the drive shafts and so on. Also, don't forget to lubricate here on the gearbox as well. So basically, my gearbox is assembled. Now, what's next? Now, I'm preparing the gearbox. For painting, as usual, I'll cover all the mating surfaces with tape, like the sensors, the fork, and so on. Basically, now I'm getting it ready for painting. Alright, so the gearbox is prepared for painting. Everything is sealed off just like I said I would. I've hung it up like this and I'll be painting it in this position. I've already mixed the primer. It's the same primer as the one I use for the engine. So people have to show the paint number. What the paint is called, it's just dark blue. That's it. I've already mixed the primer and I'm starting to paint. Alright, that's it. The gearbox is ready, fully assembled. Now I'm going to install it on the engine. I'll wrap up this video here. That's how the gearbox repair turned out. And that's the video. Thanks everyone for watching. Good luck to all and goodbye.